Hey, y'all, and welcome to another edition of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance. The NFA's purpose is to honor, improve, and advance the sport of tackle football. If you're the parent, coach, or administrator of a youth or high school player, you're in the right place. We aim to deliver an authentic voice regarding performance, safety, and the medical truth to support you and your players. My name is John Reagan. With me is Joe Rafter. Let's kick it off. Welcome back to this edition of the Unscripted Huddle that's brought to you by the National Football Alliance. And we're excited. I mean, we got another ball coach tonight. I'm here with my cohort, Joe Rafter, and we've got Beck Brydon, and man, we get to talk more football. And so I am excited to do that. Energy is flowing everywhere. Lots of Tiggers, no Eeyores.
No Eeyores.
Joe, I'll let you take it. I'll let you take it from here and introduce Beck and get us going.
We got a lot of Texas in the house tonight, as our listeners will hear as we get a little deeper into this. Coach Beck, great to have you here. So thrilled to you took some time out of your life to be with us. We have a 4-down format here where we just kind of start off with first down to get the question going, and we'll move through those downs. But welcome to the show, and I'll open up with we always like to start first down, helping our listeners get a little bit of understanding of, your life, your background, what's your life story, your origin story, so to speak, and how did you end up in this great sport of football?
I mean, how much time do we have?
As long as you want to take, Coach. Don't let it go as far back as you want to.
Yeah, let me start by saying my story is evidence that God has a sense of humor. God has a sense of humor.
Well,
I mean,
welcome to the comedy show here.
You cannot explain this. You cannot explain this any other way. So, born and raised in Austin, Texas, lived most of my life there. Like most kids, played multiple sports. But I kind of stopped playing everything by 6th or 7th grade to focus on golf. I was a fairly talented golfer. Looking back, I was world class. Clearly, at least in my own head, I was world class. But clearly, my game didn't support that vision. But I played. I wanted to play collegiately, so I played a couple years in college down here in Houston. I had a junior college down here, and my game didn't get better. And so went back to Texas, graduated from the University of Texas. Met my wife while I was in college. She was 3 years behind me. Went to SMU. Met through some mutual friends, so I moved to Dallas. Was a corporate sales and marketing guy, kind of coming out of college. We got married almost 31 years ago in August of '94. Decided to go have some fun in Florida for a couple years, and so we moved out to Amelia Island, Florida. Lived as a broke, low-income couple.
That sounds like fun, Coach. You weren't kidding to say
awesome.
Go have some fun.
That
sounds like fun.
That was your first step into coaching. Lived like I was broke.
Yes, exactly. We did that for a couple years, and then I helped start a business with a guy. My partner was down in Miami, and he knew we were itching to get back to Texas, and so he said, "Yeah, take the business back to Texas, and we'll I'll work Florida, and you can work Texas." So came back to Texas. Wound up in Austin at a little bitty classical model Christian school called Regents School of Austin. This was 1997. They had, in 1997, they had 2 sophomores. They had, I think, 4 freshmen. This is total for the whole school. 2 sophomores, 4 freshmen, maybe a dozen 8th graders, 14, 15, 7th graders, all the way down. And I'm helping my wife get
team, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm helping my wife get her classroom set up, and the athletic director walks by and introduces himself and said, "Hey, Trish said, that you might have some time, you might manage your own time, and we could use some help. We launch middle school football next week." And I said, "Man, that sounds like a blast! Like, heck yeah!" And when he said help, I was thinking, like, do I need to shag balls, refill water bottles, bring the coach a towel or a clipboard occasionally, maybe blow a whistle, high level stuff. And he said, man, that's great. He said, "Do you want the offense or defense?" And I went, "I'm sorry." He goes, "Do you want the offense or defense?" And I said, well, "What do you mean want?" I said, I'm man, I can just help you." He goes, "Well, I don't have anybody else." He goes, "I've got one other coach, and he's a very part-time guy. I needed a coordinator." And I went, I'm not qualified. Like I didn't even play past seventh grade. No, I'm not your guy.
Right.
Yeah,
He said,
and I'm
no,
going to
you,
interrupt for a second and go, for all of you that are listening that are not from Texas, Texas football, even at that level, there is an expectation and a pressure that is put on
yeah,
you. So holy
yeah,
cow, coach, that's awesome. Keep
yeah,
going. I'm sorry.
yeah. No, that's okay. So I said, okay, well, I'll take defense. And he said, great, I'll call the offense. And I went from never playing past seventh grade, never coaching, to a coordinator position. And granted, it's middle school, private school football, but it's still a coordinator
Still in
position.
charge, yeah.
Yeah.
What didn't exist in 1997? Internets, phones
Right.
in the pockets,
A way to
right?
learn.
Yeah.
So
Right.
Barnes and Noble, good cousin of mine. Barnes and Noble and I spent a lot of evenings together, and I just started digging into books, and I just became fascinated with the game, and not just the game, but this idea. Because my wife and I were involved heavily in youth ministry at the time, and in the churches that we were a part of, and so this idea that man, maybe I could use football as a tool to disciple young men and to
Yeah.
lead young men to the Lord and or help them develop a relationship with the Lord was uber fascinating to me. All right, so fast forward 2 weeks, we play our first game and we get crushed a whole lot of scores to zero. I don't even remember what the score was, but it was like we absolutely got hammered. And we're out at dinner with a couple friend of ours afterwards, and at some point in the dinner, the guy goes, "Dude, I, this is going to sound weird, but man, you've been smiling the whole time that we've been at this restaurant." And I go, "Yeah, I know. I'm fired up." He goes, "Beck, you got hammered. Like you're the defensive coordinator, and they scored, 19 touchdowns or something on y'all. Like your defense was absolutely horrible." And I said, "I know, but did you see how hard they fought? Like this, like my boys,
Yeah,
like they
Yeah.
that's
didn't roll
awesome.
over. Like they didn't roll over." I was on cloud nine, and I didn't care what the score said. Right
Right.
now, I know other people care. Right, but early in my coaching career, that just didn't matter. And so that I kind of I never stopped that. Right, and I fell in love with this idea of coaching, and I coached middle school there for 3 years. And then in late June of 2000, the same guy, the same athletic director and the head football coach, calls me and says, "Hey, I got some bad news. My mom is real sick in Atlanta, and I've got to take the family to Atlanta." And I said, "Chuck, man, I'm so sorry. Man, what can I do?" And he said, "I don't know, but you're probably going to get a call from the board to take over the football program," because that was the first year that fall, like 6 weeks later, is the first year of varsity football at Regents. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll help them find somebody. So I get a call from a board member, Polly Kroll, sweet Polly. I'll never forget this. She calls and says, "Hey, you've done such a great job with the kids. We want you to be our first varsity head football coach." It was deja vu from 3 years earlier.
Right?
And I said, "Polly, I'm not qualified. That's not fair to the boys. That's not fair to the parents. Like y'all need a real football coach." She goes, "Well, you're all we got." And I said, "Okay." So I became a varsity head football coach with zero qualification to be a varsity head football coach. And we were in Texas. Six-man football is a pretty big deal in the state of Texas for a lot of. There's so many rural towns that play six-man
Right.
ball, and a lot of private schools play six-man. And
Is six is
you know,
six
no,
man is 6 man tackle?
it is.
I've
Yeah,
never heard of
yeah,
6 man. I've
Six
heard of
and
8 man. I
is
never heard of six
they're
man.
both
yeah.
tackle in Texas. Yeah.
It's
Okay.
basketball on grass. I mean, it's a high scoring, high offensive affair. It's a lot of fun.
Okay.
But anyway, I obviously knew nothing about six-man football, and so again, I find myself all over again, not knowing anything about football. And I just knew that the greatest teams in six-man football history were out in West Texas. So I drove out. I made appointments with some coaches out in West Texas, and drove out there and met with a few different coaches who were, legends in the game. And my business background taught me that there really is no stupid question. And you guys know in the coaching world, coaches aren't real confident to raise their hand and ask a question for fear of looking stupid or whatever. I have no problem looking stupid at all, ever. And so I went to these guys and I asked them 1,000 questions, and they looked at me like I can only imagine they're thinking, "Good Lord, bless Regents, they're going to get absolutely crushed if this is the guy at the helm, right?" And so I just learned, and we just tried different stuff out, and I mean, I ran the I. Who runs the I in six man? Like literally no one has ever done that, right? But I had some big dudes, up front, and my running backs were, 200-pound guys. So we're just going to pound the ball for 15 yards and a first down every time. Well, that worked until we found a really good team who knew what they were doing to be able to stop that. But we get to the end of the season, and if we win the last game, we actually make the state playoffs. Crazy. We win the last game, we make the state playoffs. We win our first playoff game. We upset Kingwood Northeast Christian here in Houston. Crazy. We won our first playoff game, and then we earned the right to fly or go to El Paso, Texas from Austin, which is a 10, 11-hour drive, right?
Halfway to LA.
Which is why no one drives there. Like you take a Southwest flight there to go play the perennial powerhouse Jesus Chapel Chargers. El Paso Jesus Chapel Chargers. Yep. And we had parents on our football team call the athletic director and say, "Hey, we're really not going out to El Paso, right? I mean, we're literally going to pay all this money to go play a half of football because they're going to mercy rule us, and like that's not a good use of our dollars and time and all that stuff." And the athletic director called me and said, "Hey, what do you think?" And I said, "What do I think? What are you asking me?" He goes, "Well, do we really want to go to El Paso?" And I said, "We don't have a. Yes, we want to go to El Paso. We've earned the right to go to El Paso. We're going to go play the defending 3 or 4 or 5-time defending state champ, and we're going to go. I mean, I'm even
those
frustrated.
7th graders earn the right to
you're talking to
19 touchdowns.
Right, you're talking to a coach who gave up 19 touchdowns in his first game.
Yes, we're going.
Let's go.
So anyway, we go. We fly out, which was kind of cool. First year program, being able to tote our duffel bags on a Southwest flight. We get there. It's snowing. When we get there, it snows the morning of our game. They beat us 1 trillion to nothing. It's over at half. Actually, that's not true. They had saved their senior night for this playoff game. So they had to get to the second half so that they would have a halftime. So they stopped scoring on purpose at the end of the first half just so they'd get to the second half.
So they could have a halftime celebration and come back out.
All the paper shows is we got to the second half on Jesus Chapel.
Right.
So we got our heads handed to us, but we went back home and all those kids, I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them were sophomores and juniors, and they tasted what it's like to play at championship level football.
Yeah.
Long story short, that offseason was great for us. We won state in 2001. We won state in 2002. We won state in 2003. And we weren't the only games we lost those 2 years were to Richland Springs, who was the UIL state champion both those years. And so we were off and running. And 2004 we moved up to 11-man. We were now the small division 11-man in TAPS. Made the playoffs every year. We won state in 2006. We lost in semis in 2007. We played for it in 8. Played for it and won it in 10, played for it in 11 and lost. Wow. Played for it in 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. And we happened to run into the buzzsaw of Trinity Cedar Hill, which was led by none other than Deion Sanders. They had some amazing
TCA.
Athletes.
Yeah.
Yep, they had some amazing athletes. But all that to say, in 20 years of varsity head coach to play in whatever that is, 10, 11 state championships and, win, 200 something games with an absolute numbskull like me.
It's a heck of a career for a golfer, coach.
No
It's
doubt.
funny. I mean, it's humorous. It's
So,
humorous.
Joe, I got to put something in perspective here, right? We're talking
Yeah.
about six-man football, and he's running the I, okay?
Yeah.
So let's do this. Let me help you count. Center and quarterback is 2.
Right.
Fullback and running back is 4.
Yeah.
So we're either playing with 2 guards to try to
Yeah.
run the ball and get in space, or we're going to play with
Yeah.
another lineman and put a receiver out there. Can you
No,
imagine
it's
6-man
yeah.
football?
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah,
when did that
it's-
change?
it's-
When did you go from the I to something else?
Yeah. Right.
About 2 weeks into that first season. I realized this is the most archaic thing ever in the history of six-man football. But everybody's eligible, right? So my center and my
Right.
2 guards are
Yeah.
eligible. But it just so happened that those guys were, 230, 240 pounds and had a little edge to them and could mow people over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a
So
little bit before the RPO world, though, so it was hard to try to
a little,
figure all
little bit
that
before
out.
RPO. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Coach, I'm gonna bring us now into our current context here, and we got introduced by Mike Pollock from Tip of the Spear, a partner of the
Yeah.
National Football Alliance. Some of the best contact technique on the market, in my opinion. How did you
The
guys?
best.
How did you meet Mike and Tip of the Spear?
Yeah, great question. So I don't remember what year it was. It was maybe 16, 17, 18, somewhere in there. I had flown out to Orlando to the USA Football National Conference, and Mike and his partner were putting on a demonstration. It wasn't even a clinic, it was a demonstration
Yeah.
of their technique. And I had never seen anything like it before, and actually thought it was a little bit voodoo. And this is one of those leading cutting edge things, but I don't know if it actually works. And so I called my offensive line coach, Landon Durham at Regents, and I said, "Hey, I think we need to have one of these guys out here, or at least we need to get on the phone with these guys and see if there's any validity to this." And so Landon talked to Mike, and Landon got back to me and said, "Man, we need to bring him out. If we can find some funding to bring him out here and work with our kids, let's give this thing a shot." So we flew Mike out in spring ball of whatever, 17, 18, 19. I guess it was probably 17 or 18. And he took, in 3 or 4 days, he took kids who probably averaged 220 pounds and not super strong to be able to own the line of scrimmage with this new technique, which now looking back, it made all the sense in the world because it's based on how God made our bodies. And it's a very scientific, physiological based approach. It's not a meathead. Hey, let's go hit the sled and see how hard we can hit it and push it. Not at all. Like there's an actual technique in this. And my biggest concern was, Mike, this is great for guys in the league, but can my 220-pound guys really do this? And the answer was clearly yes. And when you combine Mike Pollock's not just knowledge, but his ability to teach. He is a master teacher.
Yeah.
He is a master teacher. He can get kids. He can work with kids that are on the different education spectrum of offensive line kids who really know what they're doing to a kid who can't chew gum and tie a shoe, and get both those guys working together very, very quickly. And when you combine Mike Pollock with Landon Durham, who I think is one of the greatest high school offensive line coaches in the country, public, private, 5A, 1A, or 6A, 1A, it doesn't matter. Landon Durham is the real deal. And I partly know this is because I had a son who played offensive line, and Landon Durham is a mentor to my son. And so those two guys together kind of changed everything at Regents. And when I interviewed for this job here a couple of years ago, the question was asked, what resources are you going to need to really get this thing going? And I said, well, second has always had anywhere from 9 to 11 coaches. You're understaffed, so we need to find some stipend funds for that. But I also need a little bit of money set aside each year to bring this guy named Mike Pollock to Houston, because he's got to work with our offensive linemen, and that was part of the deal. And Mike has now come down 3 or 4 or 5 times, and our kids love him, our coaches love him, my offensive coordinator love him. I mean, same thing all over again. He's quality people.
Yeah, great dude, great dude. I brought Scott Peters
Yeah.
into my youth league twice, I think. And to your point, it works. The techniques that they're teaching works at every single level. Like Scott's the offensive line coach at the Cincinnati Bengals now. He started with the Browns, he went to the Patriots, now he's with the Bengals, and he's teaching all of this there. And while he's teaching this technique, which helps a 220-pound kid battle a 280-pound kid with a lot of leverage and win that battle. I had youth guys who were 90 pounds trying to move a 150-pound kid.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of player that we had in our youth league. Yeah. The techniques work, and not only do they elevate the performance of the offensive lineman, but they also improve safety. Like, they take the head out of play, which I know is a big part of what they do. So, so you've been implementing this now at Second Baptist for a couple of years. Yeah.
Yeah, and we're just scratching the surface, right? I mean, this is very new for Second, just like it was for Regents, and we've got a long way to go. But we've got the athletic department commitment to fund Mike coming out here a couple times a year, and
nice.
Yeah, and like I said, our kids absolutely love him. So yeah, we'll keep doing that.
That's
I'm
awesome.
a little disappointed in this show, though. I got to be honest with you, because Mike Pollock and Tip of the Spear was a little bit of a secret sauce for the programs I've been involved with, and
Right.
and now, since this is going worldwide, I think Regents and Second Baptist has lost our edge. So hey, thanks, Joe, John, appreciate y'all.
We will help you with other edges. If this goes worldwide, we will help
Yes.
you with the other edges. I promise
Totally.
you that.
You have our commitment
Coach,
on that one.
Joe, I'm going to move us into second down here because
Yeah,
I
go
think
for it.
we're probably well beyond it, but we're going to go with second long here. We've talked to some other high school coaches, and will this technique work with our kids, because they're not necessarily prototypical offensive linemen. And so, taking just offensive line out of it, high school players come, right, you take what you can get. Now there's some recruiting, obviously, or at least or sharing of information that goes on to get people to come to the school. But what is it about players when you're looking for a great player? What is it about? What are you looking for? Obviously, some of it's size, strength, ability, but what else are you looking for in there? I mean, what is it that makes them an excellent player in your program at Second Baptist?
Man, that's there's a long answer to that question. I think the reality is, you see this word culture that I've got on my shirt here, and behind me you've got good men, great football. We talk, kind of our slogan is GMGF, good men, great football, and it's about helping young men become the men that God created them to be. And since they've raised their hand to play football, we're going to help them play great football, right? And so we have a pyramid of success. The defensive coordinator that I promoted to replace me in Austin, who's still the head coach there, Tim Phillips. Tim created a pyramid of success, and obviously, many businesses, corporations have those, all the way back to John Wooden back in the late '60s, et cetera. And I formalized ours here, really around culture, process, and results. And the culture attributes are things that you probably won't see a lot of in a lot of football programs, um, because they're scriptural based culture attributes such as love, humility, others centeredness, and there's eight of those, and then we get into the process category of how we do things, right, and again, it's based on scripture, and then we get to the results at the top of the pyramid, and we just don't ever have to talk about results, because as long as we're focusing on the culture foundation of who we are and what we care about, and then how we do things, you know it's not guaranteed that results are going to be great, but I've never experienced a bad year when those two things are great, right? And so I would love a kid coming in who embodies all those things. The reality is that I was not that kid. I was a complete knucklehead in high school, and these kids are not complete knuckleheads, yet they're still 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, and their frontal lobes are not developed yet, right? Their heart's not developed yet. Their relationship with the Lord's not developed yet. And so they're on different areas of all these things. And so the only thing that I ask kids who come to our school, and the parents who are interested in our program, You have to be teachable. You have to be coachable. You have to have a growth mindset. You have to, because if you don't, then nothing that we care about, you're going to embody. Nothing we care about will you embody. You're going to continue to play the way you've always played, the way that your dad wants you to play, and that's just not who we are, right? And we're not for everybody, and we don't try to be for everybody, and everybody's not for us, right? It works both
Right.
ways. But
Right.
I think that starts with, are you growth mindset oriented? I tell people all the time. People don't care how many state championships we played for. I don't care how many we played for. I don't care how many we've won. I don't care how many games we've won. Today is an opportunity to get better. And that's so cliche. It's not cliche here. It's absolutely the truth. I don't care. I'm not impressed. If you run, young man, if you run a 4.4 over at the local high school and you want to come over here, I'm not impressed. Dad, if you played in the league for 15 years, I'm not impressed. Why? Because there is a next level. There is a better version of that waiting to happen. That's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in being a better coach today and tomorrow than I was yesterday. I'm interested in that kid being a better teammate, a better son to his parents, a better friend in the hallways, a better football player on the football field than they were yesterday. And that can't happen if we don't have a growth mindset that there's always something else to learn. There's always something else to do. There's always a better way to do it. And quite frankly, being very candid, this approach drives a lot of people crazy within my own community,
Yeah.
because I'm just not enamored with the glitz and glamour of, especially, Texas high school football. Okay, whatever. It's a sport and it's something we do. It's not who we are. Let's keep it in perspective, right? And people don't like to hear that either. But it's real. It's real.
Coach.
No doubt. Go ahead,
So
Joe.
so I'm gonna bleed in. I'm gonna start with third down. You mentioned coaches got to get better too, right? So your emphasis on your players and the way you laid out your pyramid and your culture is crystal clear. And for any
Crystal.
student, any player just on this podcast, it's easy. I get it. Any kids coming in, there's things you got to do to be a part of this. But the coaches are a part of that too. I heard that in your comments, right? So what do you do? How do you develop yourself, right? Because I think football coaches, it's an apprentice-based development model, right? Like you learn from others. You read books. You go to Barnes and Noble. Nobody's got a college degree in football coaching, right? And so you're trying to pull this in, whether you're getting content from AFCA or wherever you're getting it, right? So it's a lot of self-learning and learning through mentorship. So as a successful head coach in the great state of Texas, what do you do? How do you keep your pencil sharp with respect to developing yourself as a football coach?
Yeah, well, you just said it. It starts with me, right? I've got to look myself in the mirror every day and go, what am I doing to get better? Right? And as you know, it's hard to be a head football coach and a coordinator at a really high level in this state. Um, I've coached every position over the years. I've coached both sides of the ball. I've coached special teams, and I found that my sweet spot is more of the executive functioning side of being a head coach. Um, I'm not an X's and O's guy, right? I know enough to be dangerous, but I consider myself a non X's and O's guys, which means I have to surround myself with X's and O's guys, right?
Right.
So I don't expect I don't expect this of myself, that I would be expert in all things, because I think too many coaches try to be a jack of all trades, master of none. And I think guys, and especially guys that are gifted with either younger players in middle school or gifted as position coaches, we find this dissatisfaction with just being a position coach or just being a middle school head coach, when God may have given you those gifts specifically for that role. Embrace that role. That doesn't happen a whole lot, right? And so I don't. I'm not ashamed that I'm not an expert in all things. I'm just smart enough to know that I need to surround myself with other people who aren't like me, right? So I need strong defensive minded guys. I need strong offensive minded guys. I need strong special teams minded guys. And then the blend of all of us together becomes pretty amazing, which is what we had at Regents for so many years and what we're trying to build here at Second. Because we've got some great coaches here at Second. It's just we're still new, right? We're still learning each other and we're still trying to
Right.
figure out what those gifts and talents are. But
Coach,
yeah, I mean, it starts, I mean, looking square in the mirror. It starts with me before I could say anything to any other coach.
as a follow-up kind of to that, are there coaches out there that you, I won't say modeled yourself after, because I'm going to say you're probably creating your own model, but are there coaches that you've studied that you said, I really feel like this guy gets it, and even if I don't succeed, I want to do it like this, not necessarily like him, but like this? Are there coaches out there like that?
Yeah, there's, man, I mean, there are so many coaches that I've learned so much from. But again, with the gifts and talents God's given me in the organizational management side of the game, and this is going to sound cheesy, but man, he's made a life impact. Mac Brown um,
Yeah.
is one of the greatest men in the sport of football that I have ever met. Couple of quick stories about Mac Brown and why he had such an influence on me. It had nothing to do with X's and O's. It had everything to do with how you relate to people and how you manage people and how you develop relationships. So in 2001, we had just won our first state title, and I went to a mini camp on a Sunday in June of 2002. And Mac was there. Even Earl Campbell was sitting in the cart with him. And I went up and introduced myself and shook my hand and name, I'm with Regents, and he goes, and I'm not kidding, he goes, Regents, well, y'all just won a state title, right? I've never said hello to this man. That title was a 6-man division, smallest, whatever that is, in taps, in private school and tech. Like, he has no business knowing that. And he knew that. So I'm like, okay, Mac Brown's pretty cool. So fast forward, we win another state championship in 2002. I go back to the exact same camp 1 year later in June, and I'm walking up to him, and I go, Coach Brown. He goes, wait, uh, Brown. No, starts with a B. Oh gosh, Coach, I tell me your name again. The fact that he knew that it started with a B, and that he even tried to pronounce Brydon was impressive. And we couldn't shake fast enough for him to go, great job on the second state title. Very few people ever get to win 2 back to back. Fast forward several years. He leaves Texas, takes a couple years off, gets the job at North Carolina. I write him a handwritten card that says, congrats, go Tar Heels. We'll miss you we'll miss you on the 40 acres. Congratulations. Mail that off. 1 week later, I get a handwritten card back from him that says, Coach Brydon, so great to hear from you. Best wishes on the season coming up. Go Heels. This is a CEO of a major conference football team who has no time to invest in a little bitty peon like me at a little bitty private school in Austin, Texas. And yet he takes the time to do it. And he didn't do it 3 months later. Like, he must have turned that card around 1 day later to get it back within a week.
No, but that's why he is the CEO of a major conference football team and why he was as successful as he was. And honestly, I would not have bet my house on it, but I would have bet most of it that's who you would have referred to, just listening to you talk about what's important to you. And when you use the term executive head coach, that honestly here in the state of Texas is the guy that comes to everybody's mind because of the success, because of people. It was all about people and organization.
It's just people. It's just people.
And organization. And it was people and getting them all on the same page, rowing the same direction.
Yeah. Yep.
Right on. So, 4th down.
Uh-oh. Already?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't punt, by the way.
We don't punt.
We don't punt either.
I love it.
I don't punt. That's not
true. Do you
true.
kick off or do you onside kick too?
I onside kick more than anybody in this state.
Yeah.
That
was the guy.
at the guy in Arkansas.
In Arkansas,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, Coach Kelly. Yeah,
Yep.
I'm not quite that crazy, but yeah, I onside kick a lot.
Well, why don't you punt, Coach?
Hey, here's the ball.
Yeah.
Here's the ball. Here. Now it's your turn to go score. Here,
What's the yard
see.
line?
Remember. I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up playing this game, so I don't carry
Right.
any of that baggage. I just
Right.
common sense says, why am I about to hand you the ball?
What's the
Under,
yard line?
yeah,
Where does that
under what
change? What
conditions
yard
do
line?
you punt? Right, right, right.
Okay, so great example. You can look this up on Huddle. Kincaid, our biggest in-town opponent.
Yeah.
We're playing Kincaid last year, and on our very first possession, we have 4th down and 13 on our own 12, and I run a fake punt and we convert.
Fake punt. Gotcha.
Yep,
Wow.
I hate punting.
Coach,
Absolutely hate it.
coin flip. You win the coin flip. Do you take the ball or do you go on defense?
So I'm a default defer guy. But if we're playing an opponent that is going to try to slow us down and limit possessions, then I'll take the ball. Depending on the weather outside, I might, if I got a storm coming, I might take the ball now, knowing the second half's going to be sloppy.
Yep.
But in general, all things being equal, I'm a defer guy
Why? Why are you a defer guy?
because my offensive guys are going to hate me saying this, but I'm more of a defensive guy than I am offensive guy, and I just like defense setting the tone. I love a bunch of angry elves getting after it, and just trying
Well,
to,
and
mess things up.
and legitimately, it is easier to be good early in a game on defense than it is on offense. Less things have to go right. One person can make a play on defense, and
Yeah, no doubt.
it doesn't take
No
quite
doubt.
as many to be successful. So
John, I never asked you. I never asked you that. Or do you? Where are you on the coin flip?
So this is funny. When I was an offensive line coach, I was 100% defer.
Oh, really?
As the O-line coach, I didn't want those
Okay.
D linemen geared up on the first drive,
Yeah.
coming out, those rush ins coming out over those tackles and just teeing up, and here we go. And that was early too, when I was with coordinators that maybe were taking chances that I didn't think they should be taken. And so I said, in my own opinion, right? We all have opinions about what we're doing. I'm like, okay, let's just defer. When I became an offensive coordinator, I was like, Coach, that's on you, man, because I'm going to go. We were spread when I was a coordinator, and literally every week we'd have the meeting on Monday with Coach Bailiff at Rice, and it'd be, all right, what are we thinking we're going to do? Because we're going to meet again on Thursday or Friday, but what are we thinking we're going to do? And I'm like, Coach, I'm going to say take the ball. Let's look at it and see where the defense feels by the end of the week. And I just wanted as many possessions, as many chances. I'm a little bit like
We played
Coach Beck
one of
here.
the
If give me another shot, give me another possession,
Yeah.
and we got a chance to score again. And so,
Yeah.
one of the state championships we played in many years ago had about a 30 to 35 mile an hour straight downfield wind that was going to be there all game, and I don't remember the decision I made. I won the coin flip. I can't remember what it was. Anyway, the bottom line is that I took the wind. Like the wind was my decision, right?
yeah,
Knowing that in the second half, I was going to kick off into the wind. That was it, in the game we were playing at the time. That was really important because I could squirrel kick it everywhere, and really, mess a return team up. And it was because of wind. So yeah, it just depends. Yeah.
yeah. And I'm going to be honest, I made up every excuse in the world as a coordinator to, like, each week it'd be something different. John, why do you want to take the ball? Oh, Coach, we got a great plan. We're going to score 60 this week. John, why do you want to take the ball? Coach, I think our defense is going to shut them out, and we're going to go jump on them early, and they're going to quit. John, why do you want to take the ball? Coach, the weather in the second half might be really bad. I'd rather have the extra possession. I mean, I would make up every excuse I could. I'm telling on myself
no
right
doubt.
now, and I know Bailiff and Mangino and Charlie Weiss and all these guys are going to call me here when they hear this and go, what the hell? I thought you said you were going to – you always had a good reason. No, I just wanted the ball. I didn't. I had nothing to do. If the other team's on the field, what am I doing? So,
There you go.
I'm the same way. I mean, you guys are coaching at much bigger and higher levels than me, but I always want the ball. I'm always at default. Give me the ball first, because if I can get 7 up, it changes the tone of the game, right?
Yeah.
Early. I also like to hold the ball as long as I can. So I always like the ball. So, Coach, I really appreciate.
We had a quarterback in I don't know, a dozen years ago or so that was tougher than nails, and he wasn't exactly a great thrower of the ball, but if he had a chance to run over you, he would. And I remember intentionally making some coin toss decisions based on our opponent to have him run the ball immediately. And I don't care if we pick up a first down or not. I just
Right.
need him go ahead and getting over the contact, getting through contact, establishing the tone that like because he was a tough kid. And then our offense would open up after that. So man, I'm like you, John. I've made all sorts of crazy decisions over the years based on different.
I'll remember this. It was 2007, and we were at Kansas. A Texas boy, Todd Reesing, Lake Travis kid, was our quarterback, and the whole year we had taken the ball. We're playing Oklahoma State. I think they were second in the country. We were first in the country at the time, or it was vice versa. Maybe they were first or second on Saturday night, and we defer. And afterwards, my son, who at the time is probably 6 years old, I'm sure it was talked about at home, right? I'm sure he didn't just come up with it, but hey, you guys didn't take the ball, or maybe this was a year. I don't even know when he asked me. Why didn't you guys take the ball? Well, Todd was pretty banged up. Like we knew we had limited possessions and limited time, so if we could take one of those off in the first half and not get him into the second half. He and our starting left tackle, who was an Outland Trophy finalist that year, and that was the only time ever because Ed Warner and I were running the offense. Ed was calling it, and it was like, I don't know if we should do that tonight. We might want to see how this goes. Thankfully, we ended up winning the game in the fourth quarter and pulling it off. But that was the only time I can remember, Joe, that I didn't say, let's take the ball. No, let's take the ball.
Good stuff.
We're better than them. Let's take the ball. The wind's going to blow in the fourth quarter. Let's take the ball. I mean, there was always an excuse. Always.
All right,
did we get a fourth down question in?
Here's the official fourth down. Here's the official fourth down.
Here we go.
So, Coach, pivoting from, we talked about player development, your culture, what you look for from your players. Talked about your development as a coach. Is there a way you would describe the difference between a good high school football coach and an excellent high school football coach, right? Because I don't think it's championships and things like that is a kind of answer I think we're going to hear from you, right? But how do you differentiate from your own perspective, right? You got a lot of experience, a couple different schools, a lot of success, good versus excellent as a high school football coach. What's the difference?
Where are they on the spectrum of being a master teacher? It's no different than the classroom, right? It doesn't matter what you know. It only matters what your kids do. You can have a great science teacher, a great math teacher in the classroom who has 4 degrees and PhDs and went to Rice and Harvard and all. None of that matters if the kids can't produce. Same thing with football. It doesn't. I don't care if. Again, I'm not easily impressed. I don't care if you played in the league for 15 years. That doesn't mean you can coach. And I don't care if you coached, at some of the greatest schools in the state of Texas. That doesn't mean that you can coach our kids here. So I want to see how good a coach is at being a master teacher, right? You think, quarterback coaches kind of get it easy because they've only got, 4 or 5 guys in their room, right? But offensive line coach, has 10, 12, 14 guys in his room. And you've got one wicked smart guy, and you've got 5, kind of smart guys, and then you've got 5 kind of not smart guys, and then you've got, 2 guys that aren't smart at all, but are 330 pounds and 6'7". They need to produce, right? And the coach doesn't have expanded time. You've got the exact same amount of time to get the best out of all 14, 12 or 14 of those guys. That's a master teacher. So I don't. It doesn't matter, and that's why Mike Pollock is such a special coach to me, because he gets the kids to produce. The kids do what he's asking them to do, right? He creates an environment where they're comfortable raising their hand, going, "Coach, I don't understand that." A lot of coaches don't, and I've done all this stuff, right? I mean, I've made all these mistakes, but a kid, repeatedly doesn't take a step this way, and you, man, go get some water or go for a run or whatever, right? Or you chew them out. Last time I checked, I've never met a kid who went into practice going, man, I cannot wait to fail today.
Totally.
I cannot wait to be a miserable dud for my team today. I cannot wait to embarrass myself today. No kid does that.
Right.
So it's the adult. It is the adult's responsibility to pull the best out of kids. It is the adult's responsibility, which in this case is the coaches, right? I get, and again, I've done this plenty, and so I got to check my own spirit on this. But I get frustrated when coaches get frustrated with kids because the kids aren't producing, and I'll challenge the coach. What are you going to do differently? Well, we've done all the. I mean, we started with stance and alignment and technique and body lean and blah. Okay, well then it's not working. What are you going to do differently?
Right.
No doubt.
And coaches don't want to hear that, but that's it.
Yeah, but that goes back to the first two levels of your pyramid, and it has nothing to do with outcomes. It has to do with focusing on the process and focusing on how you're doing things and who the person is. And it's just that's awesome, because that is exactly what it takes to. You hear these stories of guys and players that appreciate their coaches, and every one of them comes back, and I'm sure you have them. We heard some in our last podcast about players that come back and just really appreciate the lessons and the way they were coached, right? It had nothing to do with the fact that they won a ton of games. It had everything to do with how they were coached, and that they were taking their lessons and teaching their own sons the same lessons.
Yeah, I think one of the things also that Coach Phillips, the head coach at Regents now, he and I worked together for, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years before I promoted him to replace me. And one thing that I learned from him, I learned a lot from him actually, but one of the things that really stuck out to me was his care for coaches as compared to my care for players. I remember off-season coaches meetings numerous times saying, some version of, hey, coach, we're not here for you. We're here for the kids. And while that is kind of true, the message that I think I sent was, I don't care as much about you as I care about the kids. And Tim helped me realize that that there's a better way. We need to take care of the coaches. These coaches sacrifice a lot away from, and we don't pay them anything, right? And so these guys are away from wives and kids for 4 months a year, and that was just really good for me to kind of reset and think, man, the coaches matter first, right? And I can't expect a coach who is good to be great if I'm not willing to pour into him a little bit, and which also means that I've got to offset my tendency to not. I'm not a micromanager, right? You could ask my coordinators here. You could ask the coordinators at Regents. I let them do their thing, right? I get involved on third downs and fourth downs when needed, but man, I let them do their thing, and that sometimes that's come back and that comes back and bites me in the rear, because then they're not performing well, and I have to go back and check myself on, well, what have I done to help them be better? What have I done to help them execute at a high level? And unfortunately, too many times I've had to eat that and go back to ground zero and help them become a master teacher.
Well, I'll tell you, Joe, I think it's pretty obvious, and I know we got to wrap here, but it is absolutely obvious that Coach Brydon is doing what we stand for, right? Honor, improve, and advance the game of tackle football. And so, Coach, thank you so much for joining us and sharing those. Yeah. And I know next time I'm in Houston, I'm coming by Second Baptist to see you.
Come on.
To see a practice, and I'm probably going to find a way to see a Taps game. And but we do appreciate you. And I will tell our listeners, man, we're all following now Second Baptist and seeing what's going on. And shoot, we may have to tune into the Regent School of Austin too as well, because they're doing things the right way. But thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. And thank you to our listeners for listening to this episode of the Unscripted Huddle, brought to you by the National Football Alliance.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all having me on.
Thanks, Coach.
Well, that's it for this week. Let's keep the conversation going to help NFA honor, advance, and improve the game of football. Thanks for listening, and join us next time for another set of downs on the Unscripted Huddle.